I'm out here still searching, still fighting to try to find them. That's all I can do.
The message is still, if anyone knows anything.
If anybody knows anything, just come forward as soon as possible. 2 little kids are still out there. I want to find them. That's really all I can do.
Now, a few things to observe in this statement is that Daniel is more emotional. You might say that is because at this point, him and his partner have split up. She has actually left him. She's even blocked him on social media. And is he emotional about that, or is he emotional about the children? So Malaya has basically left him with Taken Meadow, who's 16 months old with. And then also, what's quite interesting is the reporter's almost got to remind him to make an appeal to the public for information about the children. The reporter has the sort of presence of mind to suggest that. And then, of course, he takes his cue from the reporter. And where we are here, when this footage was recorded, was on day 5.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear. Thoughts build up until I can't feel. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science. What do you think is the number one clue we all missed? Well, let's go back to Daniel Martel's statement.
Still searching every day. I'm waiting for information. I have to let them do a lot of their stuff with the aircrafts and everything else, and dogs and searchers. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be coordinated, and I can't just go running through the woods. I want to, but I just can't right now because the search is just so far out.
So just a couple of quick observations. In this little statement that he makes, he refers to them as kids. You may remember in the first statement, that's the first video I did, he changes from kids to children, when now has gone back to kids. If you have a look at his affect, where he appears somewhat emotional, he puts his hand over his face, and I'm not sure if that's because he's embarrassed that he's emotional, or he's trying to hide the fact that he's actually not particularly emotional. I mean, again, there are no tears really. I do think he is emotional, but I think he's more emotional about his partner leaving him, with their child. Of course, it could also be that he's reacting to comments made on social media. Of course, this case has elicited a really large response on social media, not all constructive or particularly helpful. And it might be that he is responding to that and responding to comments about his effect, and he's now tailoring his effect accordingly. 2 other words that he mentions during this very short statement, it's about 40 seconds in total. As I say, on the 5-day mark is the word fight. I think he says he's still fighting. And then the other word is he'd like to run into the woods. It's just interesting, of all the possible choices of words and statements and thoughts that he could use, those are the ones that occurred to him. In this analysis, we're going to start uncovering the fabric of this particular case, some of the details, some of the dynamics, and begin looking at all the clues that we've missed. We're already almost at the 4-week mark of this case. 4 weeks, 2 children missing, very few clues at this point. So I will be doing a series on this case. If you find my analysis worthwhile, please do subscribe, hit the notification bell. If you're finding what I'm doing helpful, meaningful, authentic, informative, then please hit the thanks button and let's get started.
The search for 2 missing children in rural Pictou County is now into its 5th day, and there's still no sign of 6-year-old Lily Sullivan and 4-year-old Jack Sullivan. The siblings went missing last Friday morning when it's believed they strayed from their home in Lansdowne Station.
Now, this is just my opinion, but certainly at this point, I don't think it's likely that the children did just wander off. I do think by saying that, the authorities in a way gain the trust of the parents in this case. And of course, by adopting their story, they sort of play the card that, we're not treating you as suspects, and so you can trust us, you can communicate with us, you can tell us what you know. And it may be that one of the two parents is at some point going to break with the other and perhaps reveal something, some crucial insight that may be instrumental in solving this case. I wouldn't hold my breath for that, but that is certainly a possibility. I should also say at this point, unfortunately, where we are, almost 28 days after the fact, the authorities don't actually believe that these children are alive. Now, again, contrast that. 28 days, less than a month after their disappearance, almost at the same time of the year as Madeleine McCann. And in that case, there's still this belief that Madeleine is still alive. Another parallel to the McCann case is this idea that there's an abductor, right, and yet zero evidence, once again, of that.
Good evening, Tom. Well, as you said, yes, as we near the end of day 5 in the search for these 2 young children, sadly, there is still no good news report. The RCMP held a news conference a couple hours ago to give us an update. Basically, there's not much else to say other than the search for Lily and her brother Jack continues here and around these woods, in these deep woods in the Lansdowne area, just about 20 kilometers south of New Glasgow.
So what is this number one clue we all missed? Well, let's go to the text from this article from CBC News from day 5. And I'm quoting from that article. I'll put a link in the description. Daniel Martel, the stepfather of the children, has said the last time he saw the children was Friday morning when he and their mother were in their bedroom with their 1-year-old baby. Now, I think what is implied in that is that, it's 10 a.m., it's a Friday morning, and guess what? He's at home. He's not at work. She's not at work. That already is an interesting insight. The article goes on to note the 33-year-old man said that Lily came into the bedroom several times and he could hear Jack in the kitchen. The children must have opened the sliding back door, which is almost silent, and left, he said. The home borders a heavily wooded area with steep banks and thick brush. Martel said that investigators with the RCMP's Major Crimes Unit spoke with him a few days ago. Now, I think that is already telling you something. The fact that the authorities, a Major Crimes Unit, is dealing with this really reveals what they think, is that a crime has apparently occurred here. And then there's this, Martel saying on day 5, he believes the children were abducted. Now, it's one thing to abduct one child, it's another to abduct 2 children. Police said on Friday there is no evidence the children were abducted. When have we seen this scenario before, where the parents are absolutely convinced of something, there's no evidence, and so you have this contradiction. But at the same time, you have this information gap, you have this mystery surrounding what really happened. And so as a result, no Amber Alert in terms of this case has been issued. But the RCMP issued a vulnerable missing persons alert for Antigonish, Colchester and Pictou counties late Saturday afternoon. Martel said that after the disappearance, the children's mother left the area to be with her family in another part of the province. So she's left him. They've split up. And also, she has blocked him on social media. He said there was an argument between the two families out in the yard of the home that day. I think that day refers to the day that she left him. He also said, my mother had to kick some people off the property because they were saying that I did it. I had something to do with it. And I'm the only one here fighting for them, which is sad. Now we're getting a deeper sense of the dynamic. He lives with his mother. It's his property that they're staying on. And this whole thing where he says his mother kicked them off the property because they were saying certain things makes you kind of wonder, when you don't like certain things, do you kick people off the property? Was something going on with the children where they didn't like certain things? Anyway, the number one clue we all missed is, I think, almost the most obvious clue of all. The children are both referred to as Sullivan, Jack Sullivan and Lily Sullivan. Anyone know where I'm going with this? Yet the mother is Melina Brooks Murray and the father is Daniel Martel. So just based on the nomenclature, the naming that we see in this case, the difference of the names of the children compared to the guardians, we see a separation, we see a distance, we see a difference, we see something unusual interrupting the typical family situation, the typical nuclear family situation. I have to say, these days I'm not actually sure what a typical nuclear family looks like, but you know what I'm getting at. The classic family structure, we're seeing something that is a little bit unusual here. And of course, we also don't see the biological father. He has no contact, he's out of the picture, even in this emergency situation. It's hard to imagine these two children missing if the father wasn't missing as well. And think about the Sebastian Rogers case. You've got a biological father that comes forward, nevertheless, in that case. Thus, the fact that the father is missing already creates, in my opinion, a psychological precedent for the disappearance of these two children. Because do you see, without their father being present, the biological father, the burden of raising two small children falls first on the mother and then on the stepfather. And of course, right now, there's a third child, practically a newborn in the picture, 16-month-old Meadow. In some ways, the fabric of this case reminds one of Summer Wells. A mother-in-law lives on the property as well with her many cats. And the optics of this case also reminds one a little bit of the Summer Wells case. Interestingly and importantly, the property is the childhood home of Daniel Martel, which tells us that no one knows these woods better than he does.
Now, during that news conference, they did talk a bit about the resources they have in the air that are looking for these children. They talked about how the drones work. They have drones in the sky at night and at daytime. They have infrared sensors that are able to detect heat on the ground. But regardless of the number of drones, the search and rescue officials and the dogs that are combing through the woods, not to mention the helicopters that we hear constantly flying overhead, still no sign of the children.
And further, Martel's speciality apparently is sawmills, wood, turning trees into planks and whatnot. That's his speciality. And that then brings us to the number 2 clue we all missed, which we'll deal with in the next episode. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.